What's up, y'all? My name is Devontae, and I sacrificed my time so you don't have to. I apologize for the late video. I don't usually upload or post anything this late, but I like to have something, at least something on the account every single day if I can help it. And I just felt like I was supposed to do the retro review today, and I had to work a double shift, and I have to go back to work in a couple of hours anyways. I'll have the video out later on today, the time that you're seeing this posted, because I'm actually recording this around 10 o'clock at night. You're probably seeing this around 12 most likely, or a little bit later. I'll have it out later on today. Don't worry. I do apologize. I was just really busy today. But here, check this out. I want to replace the video with this. Kenny Omega admits to feeling jealous of Roman Reigns' TV presentation. But don't just hear what I'm saying right there. I want you to look past the surface, and I'm going to help you get past the surface, because I feel there's a lot of interesting things said in this transcript that I know people are maybe some people are looking at, and they're understanding the context behind what Kenny Omega is saying. But I feel like it goes even past that point a little bit deeper into the surface, into the soil, if you will, right? We're gonna get into those seed buds, that were blooming all these flowers and shit. So let's get to that real quick. Again, link is on the description box below. As always have to give you guys a little bit of a caution, warn you that this is from Ringside News, but it's just a transcript. I am not sourcing them or citing them as far as information is concerned, so I feel better about that. With that being said, though, rivalries and alliances extend beyond the ring in professional wrestling, often weaving through the digital realm where fans congregate to discuss their favorite athletes. Recently, during a Twitch stream, AEW's Kenny Omega expressed his admiration for WWE's Roman Reigns, while also addressing his own aspirations within AEW. By the way, just real quick, if you guys ever get the opportunity just to follow up on this, because Kenny Omega has been saying a lot of interesting things, whether good, whether bad, whether a take that hurts him or whether a take that hurts everybody else. His streams sound like there are a lot of information that can come out of that. So if you want to keep up with AEW news, if you care about any of that kind of stuff, backstage workings, I highly recommend following his Twitch channel. Omega's comments came as a surprise to many fans who might have expected a competitive stance between wrestlers from different promotions. However, his acknowledgement of Reigns' accomplishments and presentation shed light on the perspectives within the wrestling community. Speaking directly to his audience, Omega declared, and I quote, I'm not gonna accept any Roman Reigns slander in this chat." He went on to elaborate on his admiration for Reigns' character portrayal, expressing a sense of envy for the consistent spotlight and storytelling opportunities. Easy for me to say. And I quote from Kenny Omega, "I really think he's incredible, and I don't think he's boring. I would say I'm pretty jealous because Roman Reigns is presented the exact same way I would love to be presented. He's presented as the man who's the champion to have big matches at the pay-per-views where you're either really cheering for him or cheering for someone else. That's professional wrestling. He's getting to do what I did in New Japan, so I can't be a hater on that. I'm a fan." Or I'm a fan, not offend. It makes sound like he's offended. No. Although he's probably offended also by the fucking booking of AEW, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Omega's acknowledgement of Reigns' success goes beyond mere sportsmanship. Omega's willingness to praise his counterpart demonstrates a level of maturity rarely seen in such a competitive industry. And that's the end of the article. First off, I don't know what the article is talking about. Well, I'm trying to fucking decipher AI here, right? If you guys don't know, Ringside News, they use AI, or maybe Indians. But then again, what's really the fucking difference? But no, people within the wrestling business, they are not really that shy nowadays as far as showing admiration for their counterparts or fellow associates. I want to say associates, probably not the right word, but they're absolutely not shy as far as saying whether or not a person is good, more so good if anything else, in a different company. You may get some people who may say a wrestler is bad or something this or something that, like Kenny Omega towards a Logan Paul, but outwardly, people who are on their level, they usually don't go out of the way to just diss them like that. But going right back to what Kenny Omega was saying about Roman Reigns, he's absolutely right. Now, I don't have to blow smoke up Roman's ass and for anyone to acknowledge the fact that he is by far, right now, currently at this moment, the biggest star of this generation, right? We can argue as far as what you mean by that, as far as like, okay, well, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because you can sit here and you can say he's the biggest star of a generation, or he's the biggest star since easily John Cena. But then you have to ask yourself or weigh the pros and cons behind that. Okay, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because some people may argue that John Cena being on top is what killed professional wrestling. I don't make that argument. I can see why people would think of that argument makes sense because of the downtrend effects of John Cena being on top of the industry. Again, I disagree with that because I feel like, and this is just my opinion personally, even though people didn't watch professional wrestling like they used to with John Cena being on top, there still did come another generation directly after John Cena, right? And those fans are still what keeps the business afloat. Now, I can understand people saying John Cena lost wrestling fans, and because of how corny his gimmick was after, say, around 2006, that right there did not resonate with fans, and it chased a lot of fans away. Yes, understandable, but you still have to take into context that those same people who were like 5 when John Cena started to blow up with his corny gimmick are now probably like 23, 24 years old, right? And they're watching professional wrestling right now. So even though he chased away a bunch of people, take into account also he created a bunch of new fans. You know what I mean? He kind of counterbalanced is what I'm saying, right? But with a Roman Reigns, that's a little bit different because you can look at the numbers, right? And you can easily look at the fact that John Cena created a new generation, whereas with Roman Reigns, it's kind of riding the wave of the current generation that John Cena created for the most part, right? If you look at any numbers that indicate demographics, you can easily see that there are way less kids, right? Because that's what you want to compare John Cena to as far as creating a new generation. There are way less kids because of them being because of the product just having less in general of both companies, but in particular WWE. You can look at that and say to yourself, okay, if there are less kids watching professional wrestling today than where it was a couple of years ago when John Cena was booming, then you can argue and say that Roman Reigns is not doing it justice, and he's just riding the stagnant wave that John Cena already created, right? But then you have to talk about the actual performer, right? The actual performer in itself. And you have to determine which one is better. And obviously, you know, it's kind of ironic. I think I seen Schleg Daddy of OTRS Central. I think he made a video similar to this a couple of days ago or a couple of weeks ago. I didn't watch it, but I seen it pop up on my subscription feed. Not that I didn't want to watch it. I was just really busy. I might actually go watch it. If you guys want to go check it out, I think it has something to do. Just type in Roman Reigns, John Cena, OTRS Central. Schleg's a great guy. Schleg Daddy's a great guy. Just throwing it out there. I've been following him for years now. But I think he talked about this topic, so I might be repeating points that he already mentioned, but I'm not sure because again, I never watched the video. But if you look at the performers of, like, say, a John Cena and a Roman Reigns, and obviously if you were to compare them from a wrestling standpoint, that's not even fucking close. Roman Reigns wrecks John Cena. As far as an in-ring competitor, Roman wrecks John Cena. But from a microphone standpoint, obviously John Cena wrecks Roman Reigns, right? But then you have to take into account this. Roman Reigns greatly outclasses John Cena from an in-ring perspective as far as how he delivers in the ring, right? Like, greatly. It's not even fucking close. From an athletic standpoint, one may even argue from a storytelling standpoint, Roman Reigns, he eclipses John Cena. But when it comes to actually drawing in an audience, for an example, with a John Cena versus a Roman Reigns, yes, John Cena beats Roman Reigns in that category, but he doesn't beat him nearly as bad in the microphone department as Roman Reigns would in the storytelling department in comparison to John Cena. You know what I'm trying to say? I just said the way the pros and cons of all that because I want to kind of bring that all together to kind of give you guys like that narrative overall when actually talking about a Roman Reigns and his position currently in today's generation as far as being the number one guy. You can say Cody Rhodes if you want to, and honestly he is the guy currently wearing the championship belt. And yes, you can argue currently at the moment because Roman Reigns is now on hiatus. He's the number one guy in wrestling right now who is active. But the number one guy overall in this generation, I can't take that seriously until I see Cody Rhodes as a proven commodity. He has that opportunity, and I will not judge him just yet, but he has to prove himself in that position, obviously, right? And you take all these things into context when referencing a Roman Reigns, and you ask yourself, how did he get there? Right? Because Kenny Omega, his narrative and his perspective is that he's jealous of Roman Reigns, right? How did Roman Reigns get there? How did Roman Reigns get into a position where he wasn't just wrestling for the sake of wrestling like you would see on every AEW show? He got there not just from the character aspect of what he developed, because it took Roman Reigns a very long time to get himself into a position where he can be defeated, and that him being defeated at that right there, now being given the credibility to a superstar in such a dramatic way that it makes that superstar that falls behind him the number one guy in the currently in the company while he's on hiatus. That's how much power it came in the defeat of a Roman Reigns because of what he did. You can tell that's what Kenny Omega is trying to sell you guys as far as the kind of position that he wants to be in right now, right? Because that's where the jealousy aspects come from. As much as I go after Kenny Omega for the stupid fucking comments he makes, I will never take away from the fact that from a behavior standpoint, again, he can be kind of childish. I think people even overlooked a little tiny bit as far as him not being so super malicious. People say Kenny Omega is a very laid back guy and stuff like that. Well, coming from a guy who's actually covered Kenny Omega for almost 3 or 4 years now, I can tell you Kenny Omega can be very malicious at times. If you read his comments, yes, he can. Had a body candle, sorry. He can be very, very malicious at times. But at the same time, I can understand that when it comes to the business, he means well. And I could tell when it comes to the business, Kenny Omega wants to not do exactly what Roman Reigns is doing per se, but he wants the end result to be that he can put himself into a position where if anybody beats him, it makes them into a superstar. If he gets into a ring and he does it with a wrestler, it makes them a superstar. Because that's what Roman Reigns does. Roman Reigns gets in the ring, and it's not just stereotypical wrestling. It's what he's doing is that you're paying attention to it, and the person who's across from him, it's going to make them even better, even in defeat. Unless they happen to be a Cody Rhodes and they're kind of like one step below that stature. A person who's like, for an example, say a Carmelo Hayes getting into the ring with a Roman Reigns, it's going to make him just simply from staring across Roman Reigns, right? Even better if he gives him a competitive match. Roman Reigns is one of the few people, if not maybe the only person currently in professional wrestling, maybe The Rock, if you want to include him in the active category. It depends how you look at that. I wouldn't even say a Cody Rhodes has that effect, not yet at least. Really, from a this generation standpoint, it's really only Roman Reigns who has that capability of staring across from a wrestler, and then, you know, another wrestler staring across from him, and it makes that wrestler feel that much more bigger, right? Very few people had it. I mean, back in the Attitude Era, you had a bunch of main eventers who could pull that off. A Triple H, a Undertaker, a Stone Cold, a Rock, a Kurt Angle. There's a bunch of people who could have actually pulled that off. Whereas today, nah, it's just pretty much Roman. Cody maybe will get to that point, but as of right now, nah, it's just Roman. It's just Roman. God damn, this camera refused. God damn. What in the fuck? Yeah, I'm not editing any of that out. If you heard that, I'm sorry. I don't have time to edit anything out. Just laugh. Okay, point and laugh at me. Just fucking point and laugh at me. But no, seriously though. Continuing on. What I was saying about Roman Reigns. Oh yeah. I do not blame Kenny Omega for having that position. Personally speaking, I would like to be in the same position also. Like, relate that to your average job, right? Imagine a motherfucker who could just go in whenever he wants, whenever he wants, get paid a huge sum of money because the way he works benefits the company. Can you imagine? This would be the equivalent of someone, say, let's just say hypothetically, because I know some of you guys have hard labor jobs. Let's just say hypothetically you're unloading your truck, right? Let's just say that, right? And you're working a forklift, right? Roman Reigns can get a truck, like a whole, let's say, 4,000 piece truck. He can get that shit done in an hour. Whereas it would take you 7 hours, right? When he comes in once in a while to do that, you crave for that. Because it takes you and maybe a group of 3 other people to do what he can do, and maybe 3 times more of the 3 times more of the length than what he can do, and have half the accuracy, right? That's what he's paid for. He's paid to come in and go to different stores to unload their trucks and do it just like that. You want to be able to do what he's doing, right? You want to make the money that he's making. You want to make the money that he's making, working the time that he's working, having the exact accuracy that he's working, and doing all of that within one shift. That's the equivalent of what Roman Reigns is currently doing in WWE right now. He's working a 4,000 piece truck very accurately and doing it in probably 1/5 of the time that you're doing it by himself, and making a good amount of money doing it because, well, why the fuck wouldn't he? He can go in there and he can negotiate that because he knows his skills and he knows his talent. That's where Kenny Omega wants to be. He wants to be in that position. And the thing is, Kenny Omega probably feels he has the skills to pull something off like that if given the opportunity. Instead, you hold him back with every other superstar, or better yet, you hold him back with the booking. See, personally, how I read this, how I look at this, I feel like this is a sly dig at Tony Khan. Honestly, think about it for a second. Hear how Kenny Omega is talking right now at the moment. Why can't he perform or do any of the things currently at the moment that he feels he could be compelled to be doing at the moment? Who's holding him back? It's not Kenny Omega. It's Tony. Tony makes those decisions. And I look at what Kenny Omega is saying, and it kind of feels like he's throwing a sly dick at Tony Khan. It's like him saying, hey, kid, like, I would like to do this. I would like to be in the position as Roman Reigns. But Tony has other endeavors that he would like to get across. That's how I read it at the very least. I read it as Kenny Omega wishing that he can do something that he's restricted to do. Wishing that he can do something that Tony Khan won't let him do. Now, it's not to say that whether or not Kenny Omega can actually pull it off. I don't know that to be the case. I don't know that to be true. Maybe he could pull it off. Maybe he can't pull it off. But I think at the very least, Kenny Omega wants to know whether or not he can actually be in that position to work like a Roman Reigns. And, you know, again, that kind of goes back to what I've been saying for the longest when talking about Tony Khan. It goes right back to what I've been saying for the past few years. You know, when you focus on one aspect of professional wrestling, you can't be surprised when people, your own employees, they look at that and they say to themselves, well, shit, I kind of like ice cream. You know, I do like pies. I like cakes. I like chips. I like soda. I like candy. I like all this junk food. But, can I have a steak? You know, like, I'm just saying, can I have some pork chops? Some mashed potatoes? Some macaroni? Some collard greens? Some stuffing? Turkey? You know, eventually they're going to want an actual meal. Snacks are good. Sugar Rush is fine. But you're going to have to feed people actual fucking real food. Now people are going, oh, Devontae, what do you mean real? Shut the fuck up. I don't give a fuck what you mean real food. Shut up, fatty. I'm talking about actual full course meals is what people want in the end of the day, right? And, you know, when you keep feeding them all this junk food, what do you come to expect when eventually they become deficient? When they don't get really full? When they get to the point where they just don't want all those sweets anymore. All those sweets kind of taste the same. When people start growing up and they get a better palate. That just is what it is. Now, it's not to say that what, for an example, Kenny Omega is saying doesn't reflect back off of him as a performer. I feel like there are ways to incorporate that within, like the way Roman Reigns work. There's a way to incorporate that without having to focus on the storyline aspect in itself. You know, you can probably hyper focus on the meaning of what your moves interpret as far as how the crowd reacts to it. That's what Roman is very, 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 very good at. Roman can make one move. A clothesline from Roman Reigns can mean about as much as a wrestler doing a plancha outside the ring. That's how you know you're a fantastic worker, when you can do shit like that. If Roman Reigns can walk around the ring yelling at the crowd and getting about as much of a reaction as a wrestler going back and forth with stupid fucking super kicks, right? That tells you how good of a worker that wrestler happens to be. And underneath that control, that's definitely something Kenny Omega could definitely work on. And honestly, that's like something 97%, maybe 98, maybe arguably 99% of the wrestlers in the business in general can work on. It's not just slowing down. That in itself should be a given, but making sure that every move you do has a reason behind it and it's not being done just for the sake of doing it, right? That's definitely something that could absolutely be worked on. But it still does take away from the notion that you can clearly tell that Kenny Omega is somewhat bothered by his booking. At least in the sense that he wishes he could do more that could relate back to the audience without constantly having to put his body on the line to get a cheap pop. Right? And that comes back to Tony Khan. And I feel him talking in the manner of how he's talking, it's low-key kind of shading Tony Khan in his booking. And the last thing that motherfucker needs right now is another L, but I mean, it's damn sure not a W, right? But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. How do you feel about the comments made by Kenny Omega? How do you feel about my comments talking about the wrestling business in general when relating off the Roman Reigns in comparison to previous generations and yada yada yada? Reverse back in the video if you have to hear more talking points. I gotta get ready to go to bed. Don't worry, again, I will have the Brian Pillman video out tomorrow night most likely. And until then, I'll be catching you guys later. Deuces, P. Ice.